Hello and welcome to the SureFire live show, but tonight it's not live. I'm going to record it because I've got to be gone next Tuesday night, and I hate to miss a couple of weeks in a row, so we're just going to record it. Just finished up a really cool event with the United Buyers Group in Texas, and we went down there for SureFire to kind of introduce the SureFire platform and chimney training in general to 300 plus hearth stores. And it was really well received. We had a booth there. I got to teach a breakout session about how we use SureFire in our apprenticeship program for Ashbusters and how you kind of build out a platform and a method and a career path for your technicians. And then also I got to do the keynote, which was super fun. And, they asked me to, shake them up, say some hard stuff, say some of the uncomfortable stuff. And, my point to them was, for years, hearth stores would give me all their work. Basically, they did not want to do the work. Service is a dirty word, and it's the necessary evil. And I wrote an article in Firetime magazine for Tim Reed a couple weeks ago, and I read that, and I read that on my podcast, and it's kind of just a little bit of an indictment on what's happening to the industry. And so I told them, I said, I was the guy that the hearth stores gave all the work to because they just wanted to sell the product, and we kept growing, and a lot of hearth stores haven't. And at the time they were giving me all the work, there was, I drove a piece of crap truck. We didn't have any money. It wasn't a good looking, I don't blame them for thinking, hey, well, because most of it was for the internet too. But just like that, when the internet happened, 50% of their sales went to online sales. Now, some of them moved with it, but a lot of them didn't. And then now they're still giving away, the service, and they are losing ground. And so my point to them was build service divisions. We can help you do that, but you guys have to take education more seriously, service more seriously, lifetime value of the customer more seriously. And it was kind of poking the bear, for them, and they really liked it. So it looks like there's going to be a nice involvement in there. They're going to be coming to the chimney industry and helping you buy some specific products, direct from manufacturers. And it should be very helpful for the chimney industry. So that's what we did last week. This week on the SureFire Live, and this is going to be my podcast too. I've invited Jonah Lindley to join us, and Jonah actually works, in full disclosure, works for me in Knoxville, Tennessee. He's our manager there. But he has a fascinating story. And recently in Connecticut at an NCSG show, the CSIA awarded him the Rising Star of the Industry Award. Now, I can tell you, I had nothing to do with it. I didn't even know it was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen before it happened, but what didn't have anything to do with them voting on it or anything like that. Tommy Nelms had worked with Jonah on several occasions at different things, different events, and he was just impressed with him. And he gave him the first ever Rising Star Award. And so I asked Jonah at one point, he said, I'd like to be on the podcast. It would be an honor. So I said, well, I knew this award was coming to him. I said, well, let's just wait till after the convention and we'll do it. So with that, I'm going to bring Jonah on and let's talk to him. Hey, man.
Hey, Mark. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah. It's a sunny day in Knoxville, it looks like.
It is. Yeah. We're having a great weekend.
Yeah. Well, man, congratulations on the award.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I wouldn't believe that you had nothing to do with it. But seriously, thanks to Tommy Nelms and the CSIA for the honor. I was very humbled to get it. When we were in that bar in Connecticut, it was really loud and there were a lot of people there, and I couldn't hear a word that Tommy was saying. And all of a sudden I heard my name and I'm like, there's no way he's saying my name with an award. And people around me are like, yeah, go up there. And so It was.
I only knew about it after it was done because he said, "Is Jonah going to come to the national convention?" I said, "Well, I think he's got a family commitment." And he's like, "Man, I'd really like to have him there." And I said, "Well, I will see what I can do." So I called you and I said, "Hey, need you to come to, you had a family event, some things worked out." I said, "Hey, I need you to come to Connecticut," and you moved some things around and showed up. So I'm super, super happy for you and proud of you as well.
Thank you. Yeah, you guys kind of bamboozled me a little bit, but it all worked out.
Yeah. So, let's talk about, you're one of the younger guys in the industry and pretty new to the industry. Let's, what did you do before the industry and how did you find the chimney industry?
Yeah. So I grew up in just north of Chicagoland, in Evanston, Illinois, where Northwestern is. And I knew I didn't want to get into like college after trying community college. And so,
well, why didn't you want to get into college? Your father was in college. Your father was a doctor, I believe. And
yeah, my dad was the head athletic trainer at Northwestern. He's a very popular, looked up to guy in his industry as well. And he's had a hugely successful career. My mom also did really well in school and ended up being a social worker. School just never really clicked for me, though. I never was able to regurgitate the information with reading and that sort of thing. I've always been more of a hands-on learner.
Right.
And also having to learn things the hard way too. I don't think it's very hard to learn. You don't get those lessons out of a book,
Yeah. Yeah. So the hard lessons seem to come to you, huh? You tended to respond better when it was like a smack.
I don't know if they come to me or if I go to them,
Yeah.
But that's definitely a part of my story. So I think my first job out of high school was like washing cars for a dealership. And then I ended up going up north to live with my grandparents and working in a welding shop. Really liked that a lot. Didn't love small town, moved back towards Chicago area, and then literally just started bouncing around the trades after that. I was a handyman. I got into roofing. I got into asphalt, concrete, a little bit of masonry, just everything. And I would bounce from employer to employer pretty much. And then there was one winter or one summer where the guy that I was working for was not able to pay us. And it was like a month and a half, 2 months where he was asking us to work and not paying us.
Wow.
And eventually me and my best friend at the time, still really good friends now, Michael, were working for this guy. And we decided enough was enough. So we decided to go on a little trip to Gatlinburg. Okay. And on our way, we stopped in Nashville. We fell in love with the city. And we're like, this is the place. In Chicago area, when winter comes, unemployment comes if you're in the trades a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided to make the move towards the fall. He got a job from Kent before we moved.
So Ken is our chief operations officer. He's the guy who does all the hiring for us. So he came in and he answered an ad and he was very impressive and we hired him.
Michael was impressive.
Michael was impressive.
Yeah. Michael was impressive. I was not, though, to Kent. And there's a whole funny story. I don't know if you want to get into that.
Yeah. So just really quickly, Michael came to work for us and Michael was great. Michael, very sharp guy, looks good, hard worker, knows a lot of stuff, and, took right off in our company. And he kept saying, I have a friend I like you guys to look at. So take it from there.
Yeah. So I pestered Kent every week, literally, for at least a month or two. And my thing was just persistence. And I wasn't going to give up because Michael kept saying, you really want to work at this place. You really want to work for this guy. He treats us well. He pays us well. It's good work. It's fun. And so I was very interested and drawn not towards the industry, but just towards Ash Busters.
Good job. Right.
Yeah. And eventually Kent caved and hired me, and he put me with Wes, who's...
Well, hold on. Talk about your interview.
So I don't know. This is it's hard for me to talk about it because I don't know what Kent was. I know Kent was seeing.
I can talk. I'll talk for Kent because
Okay.
I know what he said about the interview. So you came in.
So I came in. Kent was nice, but he was also very intimidating. And my dad has always given interview candidates a really hard time. So I've tried to get some coaching from my dad. Apparently it did nothing because I got really nervous and started vaping in Kent's office. And I don't know, probably just tried to say how great of a worker I was and came off really arrogant as well.
Well, and that's what Kent said. He said, I don't think this guy's that serious. He's sitting there vaping up a storm and every answer's like, just, yeah, man. What, like, it was not like, he didn't feel like you were taking the interview that seriously. And he didn't think, I can tell you this, he didn't have a lot of high hopes in you. He's like, man, I don't know. He basically started you at the very bottom of the barrel, at the very worst job we had. So talk about that.
Yeah. So Kent stuck me with Wes, who's, our lead metal fabrication guy. He's also, I believe, Wes is mostly running the powder coating shop, right?
Yeah, he's a key person.
At the time, though, it was just Wes in the shop in his little corner building caps and chase covers all day. And we were selling a lot of caps at the time, and it was really just Wes. And he was trying to crank those things out as fast as possible. It was not easy for him, though. So he was pretty cranky all the time.
He wasn't good at working with others, honestly. And he will admit, he would say this too. He's not good at teaching. He doesn't have very much patience.
I actually was able to learn a lot from Wes. And the things that I learned, ironically enough, you just said patience. My favorite thing I've learned from Wes is he always says, if you want to go fast, you got to slow down.
Yeah.
And so I really got a lot out of working with Wes. But the reason I ended up not lasting very long was because I saw the ceiling pretty much as soon as I got in there with Wes,
Yeah. One step in the top. Helper, boss.
And I knew that Wes being there for as long as he did and the relationship that he had with you, that wasn't really an avenue. So I quickly wanted to get out into the field and see what the chimney thing was about.
Yeah. I think, from all, from reports, you did a good job as his helper, and he was, at what he was doing was, it was good. So I don't know what happened. How did you get from the metal shop into the field with us?
I basically just asked Kent, if there was an opportunity to get into the field. And I think he kind of did one of these and, definitely had to make sure that Wes, wanted to get rid of me probably.
Yeah.
But then I ended up with as little masonry experiences one can have just about getting into a truck with, remember, Cornbread.
Right.
And then with Rob.
Cornbread was our mason. And Rob was another lead installer at the time, still probably. Yeah. Well, he's running Milwaukee. Yeah.
And just tried to do as much as I possibly could on a job site for them.
Yeah.
To the point where I wanted to make sure that they requested me on every job because I knew that they were doing all the big money jobs, and that's the jobs that I wanted to do.
And, that's a point that I always make to the new apprentices. I'm like, be the guy that they want to have. Be the most requested apprentice. Be the guy that everybody wants to have. And that's your fastest way out of the apprenticeship program, along with doing the SureFire program and all the things you have to do. But be the guy, be the man and everybody wants. And then you'll come to our attention as somebody that is really good and works hard and wants to learn and those kind of things. So you rose up through the apprenticeship program pretty quick.
Yeah. And then when it was time to take the test, I don't know if you remember this, but I ended up taking that test 4 times to pass.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Well, I took it on the computer.
Oh, yeah. We had to send you to Memphis.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I was with the reject class. So I took it 3 times. On the computer. I did you have to get a 70, you have to get an 80 to pass.
80. Yeah.
So I got a 77, a 78, and then a 79 on the computer. And I basically begged Mark. I'm like, is there a way that you can just, slide me through? And he's like, not a chance. Like, and you just gotta see it through. And so there was another couple of guys that were having problems with the test. You sent us to Memphis to take it in person with a proctor and do the review.
So what's interesting is the guy who proctored you won the CSI Lifetime Achievement Award.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing, Ken Robinson.
Yeah, and I was sad to see he wasn't there because I wanted to talk to him.
I thought he would be there too, but yeah. So the guy who trained you, who got you to pass, won the Lifetime Achievement Award. This at the same banquet. So that's pretty cool.
It was really cool, and he did a really good job with the review. My problem was not that I didn't know the material. It was the questioning of the material on paper. Yeah. And that reading and comprehension thing that I hated in high school, I still suck at today.
And I always think a lot of times that's why a lot of guys fall into the blue collar work, because it just the school, memorization, and all you're trying to do is read, memorize, and then repeat. It just is it's just a really outdated form of education, in my opinion. And it just doesn't work for a lot of people. And our society has made blue collar work seem like it's a second, like a consolation prize, as Mike Rose says, and it's not. And there's a lot of pride in it, and a lot of great stuff, and now a lot of money in it too. So you finally passed 4 times through, no problem. I got your back.
Yep. Yeah. So finally passed, and then was in a truck, and getting in that truck the first, few months was a lot more difficult than I thought it was going to be. That's kind of like every little phase or step in my life, though. It seems like I feel like I'm ready, like 100%, put me in, coach, let's go. And then I get thrown into the fire pretty much at everything I do. And I don't know if it happens to everybody or not, but it seems like that first job that I went on, it took 2 weeks longer to do than was planned on. It was bid for about a quarter of what it should have been. Like, it was one of the hardest jobs I'd ever done. It was my first job.
Right.
But just powered through, and asked.
I think you lead with confidence a lot of times. You have a natural, confidence about you. So when, as an employer, as a manager, they're like, he seems like he can handle it. And of course, you're going to have to get thrown in the fire. There's really no other way.
So it was fun, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the customer interaction part. It was really cool early on to feel like I had a piece of ownership in what I was doing, I think.
Right. Mm-hmm.
The way that at least our company is structured, there's no top-down oversight on every job. There's no micromanagement. It's, we trust you to do the right thing at all times, and here's the keys to the castle.
Yeah. Until we don't, right? Until we have to fix enough, or, you're not the guy that we thought you were. But I do feel like the company starts with trust. We lead with trust. We don't lead with mistrust or doubt. We lead with trust. As long as you track along with us, we will keep trusting you. And you did it. So you came through.
And then there was a summer in 2019. I made one wrong step, just moving a little too fast on the ground, of all places, on a job site. Twisted my ankle and was out for what seemed like the longest ankle sprain injury workers' comp deal ever. Like, it was like 4 or 5 months. Yeah. It was to the point where Mark had some employees that were starting to make rumors about what I was doing and why I was able to be out for so long. Meanwhile, I was furious that I
forgot about that. Yeah.
But that was probably, and I relate that a lot with your story, and what you talked about in your book about when you got hurt and how that perspective shift, and so many things changed for you perspective wise.
Yeah. You realize how vulnerable you are.
Yeah.
Your health is everything when you're that vulnerable, when that's it. That's the only way you make income.
And so at that point, as I was rethinking things, I was mainly thinking about, okay, what do I need to do to start moving up in the ranks here? And I was looking around, and there still is some guys that are legacy guys that have been with the company for a while, a long time, that started everything, that brought us where we're at now. And they were in the positions that I wanted to be in.
Right.
And naturally, I'm thinking, I'm going to have to wait for them to retire or leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have the patience for that. Right. So I started getting creative, and I talked to Timmy, who was out in Knoxville first.
We had launched a pretty new division in Knoxville, and he was our first guy in to get that division started.
Yep.
Timmy Neller.
And Timmy and I we weren't like best friends, but we stayed connected. And so I reached out, and Timmy is the one who urged me to talk to Kent about going to Knoxville.
Right.
And he's like, just give it a shot. What's the worst that can happen? I'm like, you're right. So I did, and Kent and I worked out the details, and I moved to Knoxville and started working out there. And it was a change of pace because I primarily had done only repairs in Nashville. And now I was in a position where I had to do the sweeping inspections, do some of the estimating, deal with the customer on the front end,
yep,
and then follow through with the repairs as well. So it was a lot different, but I liked it a lot.
Well, you had a lot less support out there too. You don't have so many people. You don't have so many processes. There's not as much baggage either. You can kind of move faster. So basically over time, you kind of became co-manager and the manager of that division for us over time. And now you run that division for us.
Yeah.
And what's it like to run guys versus be one of the guys?
I mean, I love it. I want to do more of it. It's interesting now because my role on a daily basis outside of the oversight and management stuff is being the lead estimator, right?
Right.
And I always thought that I would really love sales. I really don't like it that much.
You're good at it, but that's interesting. Yeah.
I really don't like it that much. I would rather be like not firefighting, but fire prevention. I would rather be problem solving.
Right.
I would rather be thinking of ways that we can improve and solving problems that we don't have. I would rather be, talking to people outside the company and our scope that could help us grow and get more opportunities. I'd rather be doing a lot more of that stuff.
Yeah.
And so I get those opportunities. I really cherish them.
So you're managing the division, and we're going to pivot after this back to some other things, but what are you most looking forward to?
I think I'm most looking forward to getting our branch in Knoxville to a point where I don't have to be in the field every day.
Right. Yeah. And we've had, some of the same problems other companies have. We've had some fluctuation in people. We've had some fluctuation in job, the level, how many jobs are coming in, and it's been a similar problem, for many divisions, and many people have seen that fluctuation up and down, especially with people. And, COVID was one thing, but now post-COVID has a different feel to it. But so you're looking forward to growing the division and then managing it more from, more probably from a management side instead of in the field side. But your guys really love you, and you have a way of leadership about you that's very natural, and people like to follow you. And I think that's what Tommy saw. That's what Darren Bebo saw, and several others that have been around you. Hence the reason why you've been brought up to do these kind of things. Where does that come from? Where does that leadership thing come from?
Yeah. So it definitely comes from my dad. Like that's where it starts. Growing up, I watched him, be the guy in charge everywhere we went. He was the man of the house. And then when we went, we were really lucky as kids because we were surrounded by college sports and college athletes. and the programs that are included in that kind of stuff, the benefits. So we used to travel with the football team. We used to go to all the games. And I would watch him be the manager, be the leader of everybody that he was around. Everybody
Wow.
looked to him.
What a great thing to see.
So, well, I see that now. I didn't appreciate it then, you know.
So let's talk about that. I know that you took a different path. You were almost rebellious, or you're like, you know what? You've been given all these things, but you did things differently. You went through. You decided to. I don't know if you decided, but you went through some tough times.
Yeah. So I'll say to start, I don't think when I growing up, I always felt like there was something different. Like there was something that I didn't have that everybody else did. Like there was just a little piece missing and I didn't fit in. And so, and that piece, whether it was fitting in or, you know, being able to fall asleep at night or whatever, it always just felt like there was something missing.
Really?
And so I was always trying to find out what I was missing. And I think that's part of, you know, what I know now is like alcoholism. I don't know if it's genetic. I don't know if, you know, nobody really knows what it is. People just know that it's an illness that has some really damaging effects to people and families and everybody. Everybody's got some experience with it, firsthand or secondhand. So for me, it's firsthand. I was really lucky and got out of it really young though. And so
you started drinking, but then how did it come to a head and how did you get out of it? I think it could be helpful for some people.
Yeah. So it had gotten to the point where in high school, as a junior in high school, the first thing I thought about every day and the last thing I thought about before I went to bed was either getting drunk or getting high. And that was throughout the high school day. That was like in between practices. I was a 3-sport athlete in high school. And I was on track to do really, really well athletically. And if my grades were decent, I could have gotten scholarshiped and gone to college and done college sports too. But that was overwhelmed by that piece that was missing that I had to fill. And so it got to the point where like there was one night where me and some friends went out and we were drinking and I was driving my dad's vehicle and I ended up blacking out while driving, and we were driving on the interstate somewhere in Chicago. Don't know how we got there, but drove into the like center median thing, middle of the night. So luckily nobody was around us, but the car spun around 3 or 4 times and nobody got hurt. We were really lucky, but totaled the car and found my way home. The next morning, state trooper showed up and, you know, then I got charged with, you know, leaving the vehicle and this and that. Luckily, my dad knew what was going on beforehand. And so, you know, he stuck me in the shower, did as much that he could think of medically to make me
clean you up
sober as possible. Yeah. The officer ended up, again, really, really lucky. The officer ended up citing me as an adult instead of a 16-year-old.
Why is that lucky?
Well,
sounds very unlucky.
It was very lucky because I didn't have to do near as much stuff to get out of the tickets and citations, and that stuff didn't end up following me into my adulthood.
Oh, he cited you as a child, not as an adult.
No, he cited me as an adult when I was a child.
Oh, I see.
Because I was 16.
Okay.
So, and we found out that was a huge benefit once we were speaking with lawyers and stuff.
Gotcha.
But after that happened, it was probably like 2 or 3 weeks, I think, where I didn't go to school. I was just at home. And while we were waiting to get everything kind of cleared up, and I was pretty much like on parental house arrest. Like my parents had enough, like completely enough.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. And we were driving, we were meeting with the lawyer to get with this court case thing. And when we left the lawyer, we were driving home, and it was like the worst car ride imaginable.
Yeah.
I know I'm in deep doo-doo. My parents are seething but terrified, and I don't know, all those emotions.
Yeah.
And so my mom turns back and she's like, so like, is this it? Like, are you done? Like, are you gonna get it together? You heard him. Like, you're really lucky. You need to get your act together and keep it together especially before this, judge appearance. And I just kind of threw my hands up and was like, I can't promise you that I'm done, because I really didn't know,
Right. You hadn't felt that it was the bottom yet.
But it was enough that I could ask for help finally.
Right.
I had seen therapists, I had seen counselors, I had done outpatient programs. None of it had worked because I wasn't ready. I finally.
So before this accident, you had other run-ins.
Yeah.
This was just the last run.
This was the last one.
I see.
And so then I finally, I'm like, you know what? I can't promise you that. I don't know what to do. I need help. You need to send me somewhere. You need to lock me up. I don't care what you do. I can't do this anymore.
Wow.
And I'd also, for the record too, had some serious mental illness bouts and attempts with suicide too.
Really?
It was just a really bad time for me. And so I finally asked for help. My mom lost her mind when she heard those words come out of my mouth. Like, I don't know if I can promise that. My dad said, no, he's saying that he wants our help now.
Yeah.
And so the three of us kind of collaborated for the first time in years, found a treatment center. I did inpatient for 3 months and then did an outpatient halfway house deal for a little under a year. So I was gone for a little over a year in between my junior and senior year of high school. And was able to, also funny story, that all happened in February of 2011. When I went into inpatient, there was about 20 or 30 days in, there was some guys that were starting to like sneakily cheek their medicine in the morning and at night and save it up and crush it and snort it.
Oh, God.
I never snorted a thing in my life before going into inpatient. I snorted like the dumbest pills in inpatient that don't even get you high. Like that's how like messed up my brain can be.
Right.
And so that's how I went into inpatient before 420. And in inpatient, we went through 420, and 419 was the day that they caught us because two or three of the kids had nosebleeds.
Oh my gosh.
And so they figured it out, and we wake up on 420, and one of the counselors, I love this guy, still talk to him every once in a while. He wakes us up at like 5:30 in the morning, and he's like beating on the doors and everything. He's like, it's 420, y'all. Guess what y'all ain't gonna be doing today? Getting high, and it was like this huge deal. It was like the most crazy thing that had happened in the treatment center in a while. And that's,
what did he do?
Well, he just made our day hell. Like we had really good meals traditionally in that place. We had, peanut butter and honey sandwiches.
Right.
We didn't go outside. It was, like, it was just a bad day. And we were all like feeling very defeated,
Right. Yeah.
But so that's like the rockest of rock bottom for me.
Gotcha.
Getting to a place where I felt like I needed to try and get high in a treatment facility.
Right.
And so that's what gave me the push, or that was the experience that kind of ignited the deal. Like, I can't do this by myself. I need more. I need to figure out what it is that's causing this and work through it. And so I desperately pleaded to get into that outpatient halfway house program. And I was actually, again, lucky to be able to get a spot in there because it was mostly for kids that had heroin, like life-threatening addiction.
Right.
Me just being a pothead and a drinker wasn't life-threatening. So they didn't consider me high risk. I've been to more funerals than like my grandparents have been at this point because of friends that I know that have overdosed.
Wow.
So I was really fortunate to get into there. And that's when I really got into, the 12-step program, building relationships with people that have the same problems that I do and resonating with them. And
so how many years have you been sober now?
Well, this 420 right now is 10. This 420 on Thursday, it'll be 11.
Wow. And that's Stoner Day.
Yep. I was wondering if you wanted to do the podcast this week in lieu of, because last year we had a pretty good Stoner Day.
You mean like Stoner Crazy Story Days?
Yeah, well, like your podcast. Yeah. I love your podcast that you do on Stoner Day. And
I could release this with the podcast, this one on the 20th. So we can make it for that. So congratulations on that. That's that's part of, almost everyone has is something that they've had to go through to get to where they are, if they're being successful, or somebody, is going through things now. But what I've noticed about you is that, and I will say this honestly, sometimes we send people to you that we're having problems with. You're almost a recovery center for Ashbusters in some ways, where guys are struggling. They're still good guys, but they're struggling. They need one more layer of, either friendship, leadership, camaraderie. And in Nashville, in some ways, we're kind of too big. We don't necessarily have that. And you guys are kind of like a team of Navy SEALs over there, and you're the leader of it. And you have a different take on it, and a different, care and love for these guys. And talk about that. Talk about the people you're literally, you literally help us as a company save people's lives and save their career, if at all possible. Not everybody we can save. We're not in that business, but you're kind of that guy for us.
Yeah. Well, also full disclosure, that's never been, nobody ever got sent to Knoxville because they, that was, I don't know, maybe that's for you guys. I've never taken anybody in saying, hey, like this guy needs.
No, it wasn't that. It's not like you're a treatment center, but you have a good opportunity to help people that may be struggling in Nashville, or there may be a better opportunity for them where you are. And some people need more hands-on than we have. And in the 3 cases I can think of, that's kind of, you were very helpful in that.
Yeah. Well, I like to consider myself one of those guys too, because I struggled with the same thing. My thing was just, for me, it was lack of opportunity in Nashville.
Sure.
And I wanted to be able to create an opportunity for myself.
Yeah. In a management position. Yeah. The management positions are filled with pretty strong players. And so there's not until I can grow it more, there's not as many. So yeah.
I wanted to be, I was a decent sized fish in a pretty big pond in Nashville. And I wanted to be a big fish in a little pond.
Yeah, sure.
And I also want to give other people those opportunities as well.
Yeah.
The thing that you've been talking about a lot lately is working with the willing.
Yeah.
And that's been huge for us in Knoxville is you see the people that want something better for themselves.
Yeah. That's the ones you work with. I'm not trying to pull anybody. I'm not trying to motivate anybody. If you're self-motivated and working, I will definitely recognize that and give you the opportunity. But if you're expecting me to pull you along, those days are over for me. I'm not doing it.
And for me as a leader, I think a lot of that comes from my involvement in sports growing up.
Yeah.
And the different team dynamics. I wasn't the leader of every team that I played on.
Sure.
For sure. But volleyball was my sport. And so as a freshman, I was on the varsity team as a freshman, and
Mhm.
then as a sophomore, I was starting on the varsity team. And by the time I got to my junior year, I was messing around a lot outside of sports, but I was that quintessential leader as a junior, which wasn't
Right.
very common. And it always I think to be successful as a leader, you have to come from a place of service.
Yes.
And what can I do to improve the team?
Yep.
And that comes back to what I was talking about earlier, where I really don't like sales. I guess I'm good at it. It's more so my team needs me to sell my ass off
Yeah.
in order for us to have work and grow and survive.
Well, and you like people too, so you like helping people. So the customers need your help, and so that's kind of in your purview somewhat, but maybe it's not your full strength. And we'll move through that. But so on your leadership journey, you read quite a bit, I've noticed, and you listen quite a bit. Can you talk about how important that is for emerging leaders?
Yeah, I've learned directly from you, and we just had a conversation about this. Being able to read is going to be the most life improving thing somebody can do by far.
Yeah.
I think at a certain point. And I did really well. I think the first part of my journey, just kind of latching on to other people who wanted, or who I wanted what they had,
Right.
I think at a certain point though, you have to look beyond that and start looking and listening to perspectives that aren't in your relative
Right.
circle.
Yeah.
So
do you listen to or read books?
I have to listen.
Yeah,
like
I'm a listener most
that
of
reading comprehension thing. It still bites me. So I could read one piece of paper for a day and never knew what was on it. But listening on Audible, yeah, that's been huge. So I'm not the greatest at it, like on a daily basis.
Sure.
But I'll listen to at least an hour or two of Audible a week at the very least.
Sure.
And so my most favorite recent book has been Who Moved My Cheese?
Oh yeah, that's a classic.
Yeah. And you had us read it, I think it was towards the end of last year.
Uh-huh.
And I've been telling everybody who, asked me about books to read that book.
It's so simple, but eye-opening.
It is. And it's so relevant to what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Things are moving and changing so frequently. And if you're not willing to move with it, you're going to get lost in the dust.
Yeah. Him and Hall and frickin' frack, I think, are the two.
Yeah. And what I liked about it as well, I was able to relate, personally to my dad. Always used to say, it's all about how you respond. Yeah. It was one of those things that he would say, like, you'd be really upset about something that happened to you and be wanting to pout, and be a baby about it. And it's all about how you respond. And you'd want to just strangle him for saying it. Like, you knew it was coming. Yeah. He said it so much, but that's been one of the, core beliefs for me moving through life. And that book just hits very hard on that as well.
Talking about response, have you ever seen that guy talk about sand? If you got a piece of sand in your eye and didn't do anything about it, over time it would fester, it would get infected, and then eventually you could lose the eye, you could lose total vision. But that same piece of sand, when it gets into an oyster, creates irritation and then becomes a pearl. And it's all about the response of the situation that makes one come from total loss, the other to come from something valuable. It's not the sand, it's not the irritant, it's not the bad thing that happened to you. It's what did you do with the bad thing? And in this case, your eye doesn't have it. You don't have a choice. A pearl just happens. But in your world, you do have a choice of what is that irritant coming at you? Is it actually opportunity? Is it a chance for you to get better? Is it a chance for you to learn? Or if you react in a bad way, will those things go away from you that could have come to you, like because you reacted in a bad way? But your dad is completely right. And that's wisdom, is to how to respond. And sometimes it's so glaring in your face, but you got to flip it on its head. You're like, is this right? Are they right? Or is this something I need to learn? Like, that's wisdom right there.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's been huge. Honestly, TikTok has been a good learning
If you're
point.
following the right stuff. If you open the bad stuff, you get more bad stuff. If you open the good stuff, you get more good stuff. So make sure. I get a lot of cat videos.
That's another one that'll tell you who's wanting something better for their life. Open their TikTok feed.
Right? Yeah. I got a lot of leadership. I get a lot of Bill Burr, and I get a lot of cat videos.
I saw one recently, and this goes with what you were just saying. Have you heard the story of I think he says it's a Chinese farmer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You've heard that one?
Yeah, the good and the bad. Well, something bad happens. He's like, well, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I love that. And that's literally been kind of my life. It's like every horrible experience that I've ever gone through has always turned into this new opportunity for me to learn and grow when I choose to look at it that way.
Yes.
And for the longest time, I was walking through life kind of with a blindfold on, not realizing all these opportunities for growth.
Right.
And now that I've lifted that blindfold off, it's like I feel like my opportunities are endless.
That is exactly right. It is your outlook, because this world is just a mirror. It will give you back what you're putting out. I mean, not 100%, but it absolutely gives you back a reflection of what you put out. And that's, that's Sean Aker and the happiness advantage, where he really talks about success comes when you have happiness first, and then success. Whoops, I hit a button and got rid of you. Success comes a lot of people wait for happiness till they get this next promotion, till they get the wife, till they get another thing, and then happiness will come, versus how it really happens is internally be happy and always striving for the next step.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, one of the things I've heard you say a lot is like, there's not really a such thing as like work-life balance.
No.
I kind of agree in some ways, but some ways I disagree. I think that for me, the way that I find balance is making sure that on, sometimes a daily basis, sometimes a weekly basis, I can get every single category filled of what I value as important in my life.
Well, and I agree with that.
What amount of time? It doesn't have to be 50-50.
Correct.
It's never going to be.
A lot of people, and I think my problem with the work-life balance is they're like, okay, if you're really pushing to get something different in your life, it's hard if you just finish every day at 4:00.
Right.
And you work till 4 and you're done. Now you're with your family. You're going to probably just maintain what you've got. My point is, when you're really striving, or when I'm striving, I'm starting a new business or I'm starting a new thing, I'm going to push real hard, but know that I won't stay pushing. And then I'll come back and take vacations and be with the family. And it's not a balance. And I heard a guy say at one time, it's more like work-life purpose is probably a more accurate term, because again, let's just say, and sometimes you do need to spend a lot of time with your family, your kids. But if you spend too much time with your family and kids, you will never succeed that much. You're going to give up and kind of be here. It's hard. So for me, I push really hard, and then I kind of come off, and then I move more into the family, and then I push. And so, and I think that's kind of what you at one point, say weekly or so, you're rebalancing the week.
Right.
Yeah. And so, and again, everyone can argue with that, but I always find, and when you look back in history, the people that are most successful, they really figure out they can push super hard. Whenever I've been around really successful people like Larry Winget, Scott McCain, all these guys, they can push super hard, and then then they're done. They're like, check that box. Now I can be at my house.
Stamina.
Yeah. Yeah, when you work with and that's what a lot of times when I bring people in for Blue Car University, we spend 2 days, and I said, you kind of need to see how I work, and it will open up your mind, you'll open up your brain to see how that kind of focus during the day helps you get things done versus kind of just just doing tasks or something like. But So we've got about 10 more minutes on our hour thing. You're one of the new emerging leaders in the industry. What would you like to see for this industry? A lot of young guys are talking to you and they reference you. And what do you think this industry needs moving forward?
Well, for me, like I'm still learning. I'm
Sure.
still learning a lot about the industry. I was really like humbled and grateful for Tommy and the CSIA to honor me with the award. Frankly, I don't know exactly what I did to get it, other than just trying to be around the people that I see are doing
Well, I
this.
can tell you this. One of the things, it's not that you're just around. Like I remember when you came to the CSI homecoming, you volunteered, you helped. When you engaged, you're fully present and you were always helping at every stage that you were at. When you were around Darren Bebo, you were fully engaged with him, being helpful, being of service. And the same thing with Tommy, whenever you've been to the Sweepaway Cancer Rally rides, you're always of service and of a positive influence.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he saw.
Okay. So okay. Well, I appreciate that.
But what would you like to see back to,
Yeah. So the thing that I'm seeing there's a lack of is classes, words, really anything on display from the employee side
Sure.
of the chimney business. For me, I always felt like we've talked about having a chip on your shoulder and how there can be a good chip and a bad chip.
Yeah, it can drive you or it can ruin you.
I've always heard you talk about ownership and the difference in ownership and being an employee and that mindset, and the books that I've listened to have talked about that mindset and how it's so different. Well, sometimes as an employee that wants to excel and grow, even just within the company, that for me has been a little discouraging at times, just because there's not really a path. I mean, not that there's a path for anything per se, but for me, I've always put a huge weight or amount of responsibility on myself, even in just the daily tasks that I'm doing. And when we came, it was early on in the branch, and we thought we were doing really well, which we were doing good. But we thought we were doing hot. And we came to do a meeting with you and Kent, talk about the future and lay out a plan. And we're thinking, all right, sweet, it's time to start, getting some big bucks. It's time to start getting some bonuses, for all this hot performance. And it was like a big balloon of confidence. And man, you punched that balloon out so hard, but it was so necessary for me. And what you said strikes me to this day. Every single day I try to go about this attitude is you need to start thinking like an owner.
Yeah.
And I never thought about it like that, but since you said that, my mindset has completely shifted. And I try and listen to what you're talking about, listen to what other owners are talking about, so that I can,
A lot of it is tough for employee because part of that means there's a little bit of delayed gratification has to come. We have to put in. We have to build the goose that's going to lay the golden eggs. And you can't just start taking the eggs as soon as they come. You have to think like an owner, and we got to build this branch. If we start taking too early, we will never have the money to scale and build so you can actually pull back and see the fruits of your labor if we start taking the eggs too early. Right. And you took that to heart. But talk about that for a second in the closing minute. So why, you've got your expert, you're a great leader, and this may affect some people. Why wouldn't you start your own business, or why isn't, and I've talked to you about this before, because it happens a lot. A lot of times people come in, they learn a lot from somebody, and then they say, you know what, I'm going to do it for myself. In our world, in our conversations, you're like, you always would rather be part of this team. You felt like you could go further with many versus go further by yourself. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. Well, back to sports just real briefly. I never did well at individual sports. I did cross country, and I was never first place. You know, I was first place in track in like middle school, and then everybody got faster than me. So I've always enjoyed the team sports because nobody's perfect, right? And nobody's ever going to be perfect. Therefore, we've all got flaws. We need people in our lives to help, fill in where our gaps are.
Yeah.
And that's why that's how I've tried to structure my family life with my wife, Maddie. She fills in all my gaps, and that's how I try and structure our branch in Knoxville is let me figure out where these strengths are in these guys. And let me also realize that, okay, those are my weaknesses.
Right.
Let me just let them do that. So I don't have to suck at it and they can be good and get all the recognition. Like Casey is the strongest repair technician in the company, hands down.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care who it pisses off. He is. He cares about the work that he does more than anybody.
Yeah.
And he's starting to get the recognition from it now that we're doing the survey thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so
now that he's healed up.
Yeah. But even there you go. Like even Casey's got some flaws. Nobody's perfect. So I like the team aspect. I also really just, and I'm not trying to do anything weird here. I really enjoy your leadership. And
thank you. I appreciate that.
I know I could be successful running my own business. I'm 100%. I know I could do it.
Sure.
I don't think it's necessary for me to get, I don't know that I would get any more out of doing it on my own.
Right.
I think that there are other things down the road that I'll be able to do on my own that don't compete whatsoever with Ashbusters and what you've started. Mm-hmm. And that I'll be able to do alongside that will mutually benefit. And I'm looking forward to those opportunities.
Yeah. I love opportunities for people, as people develop things inside the company, like Kent, he reaches out and he works with other companies for hiring. Our CFO works for other companies, helping them with their finances. And we have other guys who help with training. So I'm all about everybody have as many opportunities as they want. I'm not trying to put a lid on anybody. I'm always just happy that the people we have, and for however long it is, we have them, and ideally we have them for a long time. But that, my joy in this is seeing your success at whatever level. I want you to be happy and successful, and because your happiness, successful, is just part of what gives me joy to even run a company. I love seeing people successful, and a lot of people shouldn't run their own business. They're not good at running their own business. They're not good at that side of it. But we need each other. You need everybody on the team. Some people you can't lead. I've had people that they can't lead. I can't lead them, and they can't lead anybody, and they're just a solo guy. They're just going to have to do that. But when you get a team player around, man, how do we make this team better so everybody benefits and we all pull for each other and we go faster? They say if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with many. And
bingo.
I love that. That's always my plan, and that's always my overarching reason to do any of this stuff. So, well, man, anything on the closing words? Thank you so much for your time. And what's your dog's name? What are those dogs that you've got?
I'm rocking the Balls t-shirt because I've got two blue ticks. They're brother, sister. I've got a Sunny and a Ray. And so I've got a boy and a girl.
Nice.
And they are two giant, loud balls of fun.
Oh my gosh. When they start howling, they are insane. When we started the interview, they were going outside and they were going off on something.
Yeah. We've got some new neighbors in the area that like walking their dogs, and I don't know if they don't like it or if they just want to, see what's going on.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, they let the whole neighborhood know then when they're going outside. So, and
you ride motorcycles? You're going to see you at the Sweepway Cancer Rally, or no? Or you can't go to it?
I can't go this year.
Yeah,
I've got to help out my wife with some stuff for her business.
Yeah.
Which, shameless plug, my wife is a wedding and elopement photographer in the Smoky Mountains. Madison Page Photography. If you need a photographer for a wedding, an elopement, couples, engagements,
yeah,
she's the girl.
She's very good. Yeah.
And so I'm going to be helping her with some stuff that weekend. And then, but I am going on the ride that you planned separate from.
It's in May. Yeah. We got to talk to you about that. We're going down to part of the foothills area. Or the Blue Ridge. So,
yeah. So I've got my V-Rod's in the garage. It needs a new tire. I've been wanting to ride. Our weather's been getting really nice, and I haven't put a tire on it yet. So
you live in the best one of the best riding area in the country, in my opinion. Just flat out, just beautiful.
And over the last couple of years, I've really gotten into fishing.
Yeah.
And so it's been a constant battle in the summertime for me, is whether I go ride or whether I go fish
or work
on free time.
I'm just kidding.
What little we get.
yeah, a little bit. All right, brother. Great to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time this weekend.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a total honor, Mark.
All right, buddy. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. Jonah's just a joy to work with and be around, and it's great that he's starting to be recognized as that in our industry. And you guys that are out there watching this show and listening to Jonah, I think the key to this, the key takeaway is when you're involved in anything, get really involved. Like if you show up to an event, be involved with the event. Like ask if you can help, do more for people, be of service, be around the people that are leading it, get to know them. They may not be able to talk to you right then. They may be in the middle of stuff, but be around. If you're trying to get something different in your life, speak up, talk about it, say yes, say, I'll do that. Can I do this? Do something on your own and develop something on your own and bring it to the industry. Like be of service. And I think that's, again, why Jonah is being recognized for what he is doing, is other people are like, hey, this is the guy that we want to have more people like this. And I think he also actually got brought on to one of the committees recently. I think it was the education committee or certification committee, one of them. I think he's on that. So that's another way. John Caesar is the new chairman of the board. There's no more presidents, the chairman of the board. And he has asked for people that want to be involved to sign up for the committees or reach out to him so he can put you on a committee. And that's the first way that, if somebody is good, if they do a lot of work in the committee and they're active and they get their assignments done and they're helpful. So that's how we do it, guys. All right. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you.